The tibialis is your first line of defense for your feet, ankles, shins, and knees.
We all load our tibialis, whether it be walking, decelerating, or jumping.
You do not have to train your tibialis.
But it becomes important relative to how much you age because you stop planting and forcing it to be strong. Relative to how many injuries you rack up, you stop planting and forcing it to be strong, losing muscle. And in relation to how much you adapt everything else in your body, which gives you the potential to put power into the ground. So you can see that for most of us, we actually manufactured things like our shin splints, which, to be clear, rely also on the soleus, the lower, deeper calf muscle, which has the strongest pull of any muscle in the human body. So it's tibialis and soleus combined, which we also progress in the ATG system. But you get what I'm saying. The more we drive up everything else and then don't bring up our tibialis and soleus, well, we're just asking for those foot pains, ankle problems, Achilles tears, shin splints, and patellar tendon problems.
What's awesome is that you can begin at your own level and start restoring your body's natural design.
The standard for men is 20% of body weight for 20 full range of motion reps.
And for women, it's 16% for 20 reps.
A standard actually just means something we found that people with average or even below average genetics can get to through training, just as you become good at a push-up or a chin-up. If you can get strong in one place, you can get strong in another, and you can get strong in your first line of defense against knee pain. So we found just about anyone can hit 20% for 20 reps. Now that's one standard. One standard alone doesn't mean that much, but you start adding up these ATG standards and normal people can actually get pretty world-class bulletproofing.
Until you get a tib bar, you can use a $10 floss band and a dumbbell.
But the standard with a dumbbell is going to be 12.5% for men per side or 10% per side for women. The reason for the extra amount is because notice how high this weight is at the top. It's actually a tougher leverage with the bar. So I've coached hundreds, if not thousands, of people through both dumbbell and tib bar, and those are the numbers we found to be equal difficulty.
And in zero, you don't need any equipment. You can do this right against the wall.
The form is butt against the wall, not back, just your butt against the wall. Legs straight, no bend of the knee. To cheat, the farther you stand out, the harder it is. The closer you stand, the easier it is. You see, the farther you stand, the more of a stretch you get, and actually the harder the leverage becomes. So you can try 25 reps as we do in zero with your body weight alone against the wall, and you can actually really start to feel this working. That's why I actually like to start with 12 weeks of body weight, 2 sets of 25, 3 times a week is what we do in zero, because your heel's reaching out in front of you, just as if you're walking, reaching out to decelerate, reaching forward to plant through your maximum jump. So it actually starts getting you in tune with that muscle. Then in dense, I think you could use body weight or loading, but definitely in standards. We do want to get to the loading so that we can get a comparative measurement to the rest of your body. For me, this is a key ingredient that got rid of about 8 years of chronic shin splints and 10 plus years of chronic knee pain, and not just got rid of them, but has me at a point now where I can play my sport or do things that it's almost like I can't induce pain no matter how hard I try. And actually, the harder I go out and compete, the more bulletproof I get, because I have the muscles in the right areas. So then it just stimulates them even more. So most of us are actually either on a spiral downward or upward with our body, and this is one of those moves that got me on that upward spiral. And particularly for me, I had the goal of being able to dunk off 1 foot. So even once I could dunk off 2 feet, it wasn't until age 27, I was turning 28, that I finally was able to dunk off 1 foot. Now, it's easy. I can dunk off either leg off 1 foot, and I'm excited about that because I actually have so much more potential now, since I really haven't trained my 1 foot jumping my whole life because the shin splints and knee pain were so severe.
Like us, you are probably wondering why training the tibialis wasn't more popular before ATG.
And now here comes my final rant. Well, the closer we get to the truth, the simpler it gets. And the truth is that this exercise was popular, even dating as far back as the 1960s, thanks to Bob Gadja. You're my boy. Bob Gadja is a genius. He's 81 years old now, phenomenally fit. But what occurred? It's really simple. Bob beat Arnold Schwarzenegger, a 19-year-old Arnold Schwarzenegger, to be Mr. Universe. This was before steroids existed as something that was used for bodybuilding. So Bob hits a point now where he's going to a fitness club and he sees people shooting up steroids. This is everything he got into bodybuilding for in terms of the opposite reasons, because Bob was a Chicago YMCA guy whose passion in life was getting kids off the streets and off drugs. Drugs never occurred to him as part of bodybuilding. The idea back then was just to be as healthy as possible. That's why a lot of those early guys, 60s, 70s, 80s, still crazy, mobile, and healthy. That was the whole idea, was just to get as healthy as possible. So Bob has the same life philosophy as me, which is you're going to find your true happiness when you actually just pursue trying to help other people. And that's what Bob wanted to do. So Bob got out of bodybuilding immediately when he saw the steroid direction it was going. So you have the creator of the tibialis, popularizer of tibialis training, Bob Gadja, who then dropped out of bodybuilding, and then it took fitness itself, took a more image-based, and look, we're not seeing on the fitness magazines. Where in the fitness magazines is it, how much do you tib and showing off tib? Do you see what I'm saying? So being bulletproof fell out of style. Looking good fell into style. This is simply what occurred. I'm sorry this wasn't the most coherent rant, but I just want to express my sincerest thanks to Bob Gadja, who originally popularized the tibialis raise. And now my philosophy is teamwork makes the dream work. So that's why I have ATG and Bob. We have dozens, getting now to be hundreds of coaches around the world. So I can promise you the tibialis will never become a lost piece of technology. And why do I make these videos? Why do I everything? What's my one guiding rule myself? Similar to Bob, my guiding rule is I live for the 12-year-old me that started having knee pain and had no idea that he could do something about it. Only rest, ice, painkillers, elevate, all this stuff. Didn't realize I could do something about my knee pain. So this is one of those things that every one of us can do for simple, measurable bulletproofing. Life is hard. It doesn't have to be as hard. Thanks to Bob.